Welcome back to the workbench. Well, actually I'm not on the workbench because today's subject is an absolutely massive kit. Hey guys, Matt from Model Minutes here, and today I'm taking a look at this B-17G Flying Fortress in 1/72nd scale from Revell. Join me in this one as I take a look inside the box and see what this kit is like. Immediately on the front of the box we are met by this rather striking image of the B-17G in formation during one of its daylight bombing raids in World War II. Over here on the left we've got some dimensions of the model, and down here bottom we've got 4283, which is the code number for this particular kit. The back of the box features the similar information that you'll find on the majority of Revell offerings, and on the edges we've got some information about the actual B-17 and some warnings in different languages. The far edge has paint colours that you might require from the Revell range here on the left hand side, and some rather interesting images displaying a prototype version of the model. I really like when Revell do this because it helps you identify what you need to do in the kit, and it also gives you an example of what it's going to look like when it's finished. The long edges of the box feature the same information as on the front, but it does tell us it's a skill level 5. And to be brutally honest, you might as well just ignore that, because the way that Revell does their skill levels is by the number of parts in the kit. This has over 150, so it's a skill level 5. Not that they think it's going to be particularly difficult, but more on that later. The only thing that strikes me about this box is that it's so large, but still made out of the same thickness of cardboard as the other Revell kits in the Revell range, that it's a bit flimsy, and as you can see here, it doesn't really want to stay closed when I put the flap in. So if you were to order this online, for example, and get it sent through the post, you run the risk of the parts inside being damaged. So personally, I would have preferred a slightly thicker cardboard, or maybe a top opening box rather than a side opening box, but that's just a small thing from me. Let's get inside this one and see what we've got. As usual, we'll take a look at the instructions first. And you know what I'm going to say. These are printed in black and white, and it makes it very difficult to follow the painting instructions when we get to them later. As to be expected from Revell though, we've got an image of the aircraft on the front and information about the real B-17. Flip over the page, we've got some warnings and safety information, as well as a key to the different symbols you'll see during the build. Continue on a little bit further, and we are met by the ever frustrating paint call-out system. All Revell paints have set numbers, but then when you come into the kit, they change the number to a letter. I get that they want to mix different paints together, so for example J here is 25% of their 88 paint and 75% of their 85 paint, but why not just tell us that in the instructions rather than making me go backwards and forwards continuously? On a kit as large as this, that's going to become very frustrating, and what I'll actually end up doing is writing the paint colours down on the instruction sheets as I go through, so that I don't have to keep flicking backwards and forwards. On this page we've got a sprue map. That's very handy because that helps you find the parts that you need. If you're there sitting there looking at the sprues and you can't identify the one that you want, just look here and it'll tell you. So for example 68 is there, it's on a clear sprue, it's one of the cockpit canopies. I know that instantly just by looking at that, so I can go straight to that sprue, find that part and take it off. And here we start the construction of the model. And the pictures are to the normal standard from Revell. Exploded diagrams indicating which parts need to go together. And the thing that strikes me instantly is we're just working on the interior elements here. Cockpit, bomb bay, and there are a lot of parts to go inside the aircraft. So we're progressing down here, fuselage parts, adding the internals to those. Still more of the cockpit. We're progressing all the way down here. We are getting down to building up the turrets, the ball turrets on the underneath, and then the top turret. Step 41, and we still haven't closed up the fuselage. Carry on going, adding more details inside the aircraft, adding more guns. There are different options as well, just to point out that if you want to have the two different versions, there's two different versions that come inside this kit. So if you want one, you need to make sure you select the right part. And then finally, step 48. So we're nearly 50 steps into the model here, and we're just closing up the fuselage. So that's quite a big job. Progressing on down, adding more parts, nose, window there, rudder, sides of the fuselage there as well. Here it indicates to me that the flaps can be cut away from the lower wing half, and then repositioned if you want to have them displayed in the down position. So just be aware of that when you come to build it. Moving on then, we are adding various parts of the engine nacelles, adding the tail planes, 63 onwards, building up the engines. Quite a few details in there to go together to make those. By 74 you should have finished doing the engines. Then we build up the wheels, landing gear, and it doesn't specifically say here that you can display the landing gear raised. You would have to make modifications to the landing gear in order to display it in that raised position. Down here at 87 you see the machine gun barrels going on to the ball turret underneath the aircraft, which is a good idea of doing it that way, because if you painted this you wouldn't necessarily be able to mask those, or you'd have difficulty doing so, but having them as separate parts means you can add them after you've painted everything. It's the same here with the tail gun. Moving on down, adding the props, and just a quick, to flick back slightly, when you add the props, over here, if you followed the instructions properly, you'll have a pin that sticks out which shouldn't be glued in place, which means that you can spin the props. And that's it. That's all the steps. There's a lot of steps there, 91 steps to complete the model in the instructions. That's quite an involved and long process, so this is going to be quite a long and attention to detail kind of build. I forgot to mention here, we've got the bomb bay. You can display the bomb bay open or closed, it's your choice. And then we're on to the painting instructions, and this is one of the things that annoys me about Revell painting instructions, is that they're in black and white, and each colour is displayed by a different shade of grey, which makes it quite difficult to follow. Personally, I prefer this to be in colour and a little bit bigger, because there's a lot of stencils and transfers that need to go on. But I'm sure if you stick with it and persevere, you'll get there. The first B-17 here is a B-17G 35VE, Little Miss Mischief, based in the UK in 1945 with the 1st Air Division. And then the second one, so this one is all sorts of an olive colour, whereas this one has elements of metallic silver and olive. So the second one is B-17G 30BO, and it's 909 with the same Air Division, again in 1945. So two different options there, which is quite nice. And then flip over, and I noticed this earlier when I was looking through the kit before I made the video, these are transfer placement instructions for the internal areas of the cockpit. So these are the bulkheads, and you have to add different transfers, and it gives you painting instructions as well. But why, now riddle me this, Revell, why is this step number 94? We built the fuselage and all these internal components way back here. Step 3, you know, we added that in, step 17, 18, into the actual aircraft. Why are these decal placement instructions all the way back here at 94? If I weren't to read the entire instructions through, and I know obviously that's a fault on my part if I were to do that, but if I didn't, and I got all the way through and I went, oh, well, I can't add them now because I've already finished the model. So that, in my opinion, should be at the beginning rather than at the end. Just a small point. Anyway, speaking of, here are the transfers. One medium-sized sheet, and they are printed to the normal quality you can expect from Revell. And I don't normally have any issues with these transfers from Revell. The printing looks to be really well done. There's no registry errors, nice crisp colours. You see the printing on the insignia. It's all really nicely done, so I seriously doubt that you'll have any issues with putting these on to the model. One more thing as well is the safety advice sheet that comes in every single Revell kit. And then that leaves us with the main event, the parts. We have 1, 2, 3. 3 plastic bags contain all of the sprues. So let's get these open. Right, so let's count up how many we've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 plastic sprues containing all 237 parts. The plastic is moulded in a grey metallic kind of colour. I get why they used to do this, and that was to help those who maybe just wanted to leave it in a silver colour, mean that they didn't necessarily have to paint it. Personally, I prefer like a more standard grey, but you know, I can live with that, that's okay. Grey silver is alright. So let's take a look at some of these parts, and if I'm honest, it's quite impressive. The recessed and raised details throughout are very crisply moulded. The only thing I want to point out is there is mould release on this. I can feel it, and I don't know if it'll pick it up on the camera, but there is, you can see it there. There is actually still residue left on here. So when you come to build this, you are going to have to wash the plastic parts, because that mould release is going to stop your glue and cement from sticking to the surface of the model. It actually feels quite greasy. This is possibly the greasiest model kit I've ever had. Some nice moulded panel lines there around the engine nacelles. And then on the next sprue, we've got more of the same. Wing halves, elements of the bomb bay. Here's the control panel on the cockpit, and again, that's got some nice moulded details in there. This sprue has some more parts of the fuselage and internal areas, and you can see the braces there. We've got the bombs and the machine guns, and the details on the machine guns are quite good actually. They're quite well represented. Engine nacelles and engine components. There is some flash on this. So there's a bit of flash on the inside here. See that there? And around some of these finer details there is flash. So just be aware of that when you come to build it. On the end of this propeller there's some flash too. Here is one of the fuselage halves. Generally speaking though, the mould quality is really good. The amount of detail as well, we've got all of the ribs on the inside there represented. That's nice to see. We've got a copyright date up here, printed on the inside, which makes a lot more sense than how Revell used to do it and printing it on the outside. 2010 is the copyright date on that. More internal detail. We've even got representation of sort of the ribs underneath the metal coating of the aircraft. Last silver sprue. I mean, there are so many parts here, you could take like an hour just looking at each individual part. A little bit of flash in places, but nothing that would be too difficult to clean up. And then the clear parts. So how do the clear parts look? Well, again, there's mould release on there, so you're going to have to wash that off. And there's more flash on the clear parts than there is on the grey silver parts. So these are going to require a little bit more cleaning up. But once they've been cleaned, I'm sure they're going to look absolutely fantastic. They seem to be crystal clear. There is a little bit of warping in a few places that I can see, but I don't think it will detract from the overall build. There's some very nice details on there. Cool. So yeah, let's sum this one up. We had 8 grey silver sprues and a clear sprue containing the 237 plastic parts. They are all moulded to a really nice quality with some excellent detail being visible, and there is some flash and mould release on there, so just be aware of that if you do come to build this one. Put them back in the box. I will put them back in the bags at some point, but we will get them in the box for now so I can tidy everything away. We've got a safety advice sheet. Instructions that should be relatively easy to follow, but I do have my concerns with them. And then a nice set of transfers with some fantastic printing. Let's get that in there. All of that comes contained within a box with some very attractive artwork on the front and some lovely pictures on the side. So before I wrap this one up, let's talk a little bit about the history of the kit. So the copyright date on the kit, which was 2010, is the actual tooling date for this kit. So it's only 10 or 11 years old now at the time this video was made. This version is the initial release version from 2010. but it has been re-released in 2011 with new transfers for a different aircraft, and also released in 2012 with new parts to make a B-17F. At the time of this video, you'd be looking at spending around £20 here in the UK for this particular kit, which I actually think is great value for money. I've done a bit of research regarding this and comparing it to the 2016 Airfix tooling of the B-17G, and I'm actually led to believe that despite the fact that the Airfix kit has 5 more parts, so 242 in the box, and retails for £10 more, so that's £30, this one actually has slightly more and better quality detail on it. Usually though, the area where Airfix makes up for that lack is in the mould quality, in that there will be less flash, and in those decals or transfers being from Cartograph. So they will be to an exceptional standard. As well, the Airfix instructions I tend to find a little bit easier to read because the Revell ones do their funny black and white colour call out mumbo jumbo. But you've got to ask yourself, is it worth spending an extra £10 just for those small benefits? I mean, yes, okay, if you wanted the Airfix one because it's got different transfer and paint schemes, then that's absolutely fine, go for that one. But if you're on a budget, definitely this one would be a fantastic purchase. I think it's probably time to call this one here. This looks to be a rather fantastic looking kit. It has got a few little problems with it, but to be honest, I think they are outweighed by the low cost and the amount of detail you're getting for that money. Before I go, I'd like to say thanks to my channel members and patrons here on YouTube and over on Patreon. A massive thank you to these guys. And if you'd like to join them, make sure you take a look at the links in the description to find out the perks that you get and how to contribute. If, however, you'd like to support my channel for free, you can subscribe with notifications on so that you never miss a modelling video. I'd also like to thank everyone who took part in the poll on my community tab. You guys have an active influence on the direction of this channel and the content that's created, and as you can see on the poll on screen, the majority of you wanted to see this video, so here it is. A massive thank you to everyone who commented, liked and voted in that poll. Furthermore, if you'd like to connect with me on social media, you can find those links down in the description box as well. Finally, all that's left to say is a massive thank you to you for watching this video, and I'll see you all on the workbench again next time.